today was inspired by quite a few people that I've come across and hearing them sometimes defeat themselves. And it made me think of the question, who told you you couldn't? And I repeat that question again purposely. Who told you you couldn't? That you couldn't win, you couldn't get that job, you couldn't be the manager, you couldn't learn the new language, you couldn't be a public speaker. Who told you you couldn't? Thinking about my speech today immediately brought me to mentorship. I've learned over time that mentorship has helped me in my life, and I've been very impacted by it in a positive way. And I learned that the only way that I can pay back mentors is by mentoring myself. I think of one of my mentees who came into my door, and she had two topics that she wanted to work through, and it took a few years. But the first two issues that she had was her marriage. It was failing in her eyes. And the second was her professional journey. She wanted to be a college professor and didn't think she could. But the amazing thing about her, or rather interesting, I don't know if it was amazing, she stated that, well, I don't think that I can be a professor because you have to have a certain attitude. You have to know certain people. Of course, my marriage is not going to thrive because I didn't come from a healthy marriage. To say the least, her attitude was not sanguine at all. She was very discouraged, not optimistic. I asked her that question. I said, who told you you couldn't? She immediately went into, well, you know, that's what people say, that's what the statistics say. No. I stopped her and asked her again, who told you that you could not have a successful marriage? Who told you that you could not become the professor that you wanted to be? She sat there for a minute. And as we talked through things, she learned that she took on the perceptions and ideas of others. She took on that negativity and started walking through that herself, and immediately learned that she needed to make some changes. We started talking about your own weather and perspective. And it brought me to one of my favorite speakers. His name is Todd Davis. He is the Chief People Officer for the Franklin Covey Incorporation. And he likes to say, wear glasses that work. I want to ask you a question, and I would like a verbal response. I'm putting on different glasses right now. I ask you, how do you think my vision has changed? Maybe more dim.
Maybe I look cuter.
Maybe you look cuter. Or darker. But it's a different vision. I see differently. This is not something I would wear in the nighttime. I use this example maybe for a little humor, but I want us to take this literal example into a figurative sense. You have to wear glasses that work for you. In the same idea, I could take my prescription glasses and ask Bobby Joe to wear them, and she may see a different view. My mentee took on those perceptions and experiences of others, and she did not have a positive outlook. Needless to say, over much work, and I don't want to go too much into what we worked on, I won't say her marriage is thriving, but her husband and her are working together towards growing their marriage in a positive way. She has her first appointment as an adjunct professor in 2 weeks. I am very proud of her. She changed her view. She changed her perspective. She stopped thinking about that she couldn't. But I'm also thinking about a story from my mother. My mother in first grade, she told her teacher, I want to be a nurse. And her teacher immediately told her, I'm sorry, you can't be a nurse. Black people don't go into the medical field. My mother never became a nurse. She admired her teacher so much, and she took that on. And because of that story, and she told me about that when I was a little girl, she helped me to silence those little voices in my head that tell me that I can't. So I have a charge for you today. I want to talk briefly about self-affirmation. Self-affirmation is what my mother encouraged me to do if someone told me that I couldn't, or if I felt that I couldn't. Even before my speech today, I get nervous every time I speak in front of a group. I sit in my car and I look in my mirror and I say, I can speak well. I can speak to a room of friends and strangers. I can get my point across. I can stand up there and not fumble. Now, these things may not be true. I may stand up here and fumble. I may stand up here and forget what I have to say. But there's something about self-affirmations and the words that you put into yourself to help you have a more sanguine outlook on how you feel about the message that you're trying to share with others. As I leave you today, I ask you, who told you that you couldn't? Let's not let that person be you. Madam Toastmaster.